32 states and the federal government have the death penalty, and all of them use lethal injection with various drugs as the primary method.
Some people go through the world and maybe are told or believe that they will have a big impact, you know, they're made to be here. And for me and my sister, the way we grew up, we didn't.
Many states, including Oklahoma, have been having trouble getting a hold of the drugs, and Holly Williams in London found one reason why.
The mandate was kind of say nothing and do nothing, and actually if you do something, it might be a problem. And so we went small.
The reason several states are running short of execution drugs is this woman. Maya Foa works for a British group which campaigns against the death penalty.
So there's something empowering about success in that what it is actually is saying you're there, and if you do these things in this way, you can have this positive impact. It's also really fun.
Everything that is interesting is 90% boring.
I left university. At the time I had wanted to be a theatre director and had just finished a show, and it was great. You know, I'd just done the thing that I thought I wanted to do. And somewhere it wasn't right. I think I was probably at my most lost at that point in my life. So I wrote to a couple of charities and essentially said, can I be useful? I didn't know what to do with myself when I started at Reprieve, but I knew I really liked the work they were doing on Guantanamo and the death penalty. It was really about abuse of power. And I saw this really bold, creative organisation going out there and fighting. For me, theatre was the way also to connect with people and affect people and create change. It felt quite revolutionary in some ways. If you're a director in theatre, you have a vision, you bring very, very talented people together, and then you communicate it to an audience. And you could take the same idea in a human rights organisation and say, if you're the director there, you have to have a vision and you have to be able to bring brilliant, talented people together, and they all have their different roles that they're playing within that, and then you're communicating something and you're wanting your audience or your jury, if it's a court or it's the public, you're wanting them to view the world a bit differently.
It's absolutely shocking that we can be going over to publicly applaud a regime that wantonly...
It's not obvious how you fight really entrenched, hardened structures of power. I don't think you can go full frontal attack on any of the issues we work on because we will lose. The structures are ready for that kind of attack, so you have to duck and dive. There's no magical thinking here. I really want to dispel this mythology around the individual hero, human rights lawyer, or this or that or the other. A great team working on an issue with an achievable objective that might be big. It might be ending the death penalty for drug offences. With the right strategy, working with good partners and a good team, I think the arc of change is 7 years. Do you need to be angry? That's a great question. Our perspective on the world and the issues that we work on, there is definitely a relationship to power. And I don't think you would be in this sector, in this work, which is hard work as well, if you didn't also have an attendant sort of passion, and it might be anger. Certainly I'm happy to say, yeah, those things do make me angry. That must be what drives some of this. And I'm sure lived experiences that give you the certain perspective that means you want to fight certain fights. Content-wise, you are dealing with really traumatic and emotionally taxing, challenging situations where you're seeing, a lot of abuse and pain sometimes. We were working on life and death issues, but no one talked about that in the sort of emotional impact. Nobody created space for that, and maybe that's just, we were built on lawyers. There's a lot of traumatized lawyers out there doing great work, but also incidentally doing harm. If we don't talk about it, there is a risk that within an organisation you sort of internalise some of the harms and the abuses of, say, the state, and because you might sometimes feel powerless if we don't talk about that powerlessness, you can then get angry with what's accessible to you. So that might be your colleagues, it might be some other organisation, it might be your partner, it might be your kids. And the effect of sitting together and acknowledging this is awful and I'm feeling this way actually prevents that cycle of internalisation and then externalisation in a way that's not helpful, that's actually really just a sort of violence that then gets replicated. It's just obvious to me now. Create those spaces and model being able to have those conversations. I think I have a lot of happy moments. The other day I was tired and I had cycled in and I'd had a few meetings, and then I walked out, and I bother people when I'm in the office. I'll go and distract people and chat with them. And one of my colleagues said, "You seem happy." I was like, "Yeah, I am. I just had a bunch of meetings with my teams." I love having ideas. When you figure something out, I've had it, I can remember the moments through my career. You suddenly clock something, okay, that's the thing, and that's how that works, that's what's going to change things. And I would cycle home, almost euphoric, you've just cracked something. As somebody who started, like I said, I was, at my most lost and least empowered. In my final year of university, I had moments where I couldn't open my mouth and say anything. And then you get to build and grow and discover that individual who couldn't open their mouth and say anything could also have these big impacts in the world. I'm meeting clients whose cases you've worked on and they are now out of the terrible situation they were in is astonishing to me. I religiously intake now 4 shots of espresso in the morning. A flatmate of mine said, "It's probably the one moment in the day where you are still." It's just that moment of peace, and you kind of have to wait a moment because it's too hot.